Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome aboard. Appreciate you being here on this Friday. It's August 25th. Welcome aboard to Indiana Sports Speed Radio. Loaded schedule. Bob Kravitz on the program today. Zach Osterman. Jeffrey the Greek. That makes his long return after a hiatus. And Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. How you doing? Don't forget, Indiana Sports Speed Radio is always powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just make sure you go to andymorehonda.com and get more to your door in the best in new and used vehicles. And the family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington and Bedford area of the Wow Food Group. Great places like the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale with a great Cajun cuisine. You have pub to choose from, but the only full Cajun cuisine that I'm aware of in the area. So there you go. Check that out. How's everybody doing on the Andy Moore Honda hotline? We appreciate everybody jumping on. If you're listening on radio around the state, whether you're on the Ref 97.7, always the right call down at Evansville, 1230 AM, 107 FM, WJLB, the voice of the region up in Hammond and all of Chicagoland. How's everybody doing there? Up in Fort Wayne, 1380, the fan, the voice of Fort Wayne sports. WBRO 89.9 down in Marengo, or via podcast or on YouTube. And if you're hitting us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. We appreciate you. Dwayne jumping on from down in Evansville. Ket, thank you, sir. Reminding him to hit the like button. Mike, Steve from Evansville as well. Royville, Ballers. How you doing, my friend? Rudy the Boxer's here. Tanis, Russell. Appreciate you guys all jumping on. A loaded lineup today, as I said. Bob Kravitz, looking forward to always talking to Bob. It's fun. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Jeffrey the Greek, as football season is around the corner. And Travis Miller. We'll find out what's happening up at Purdue and going on there. Lots going on out here. How about Michigan, of course, suspended Jim Harbaugh for 3 games. That's their deal. That is not settled with the NCAA, but they're doing this on their own and hoping that this will just make it go away, which would be funny if that's how it ends up, because the NCAA had a 4-game suspension set up. With 3 games, it affects only the non-conference games. And weirdly, they are going to rotate head coaches during this period. Different people. Defensive coordinator Jesse Minter will serve as head coach for Michigan's season opener against East Carolina. And then the next game, special teams coordinator Jay Harbaugh will handle head coaching duties in the first half of Michigan's game against UNLV. Then running backs coach and former Indiana running backs coach Mike Hart will lead the second half as head coach. Now, that's a weird deal. But you know what? That shows how they know that this is a toy to them. These games are play. Then finally, offensive coordinator Sherrod Moore will be the acting head coach for their game against Bowling Green. Oh my God. Strength coach. Weights, lifting. Ben Herbert added the title of assistant head coach. And Michigan announced Jack Harbaugh will continue in his role as assistant head coach. So you can just tell that Michigan's almost laughing. This is toy. They're toying. These are like toys. Hey, okay, you can have this game. You can have this game. Now you guys are going to have to split this game because there's not enough. You're going to have 4 different freaking head coaches in 3 games. That just shows you how this is just playtime. Playtime to Michigan. Hello, Kay. How are you doing? Jumping on from New Jersey. I think that might be a first. I don't recall seeing in New Jersey before. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. John on from Southport as well. Appreciate everybody jumping on. This fall we're going to be doing some celebrating. Haven't even mentioned it till now, John Boy. But we just added the show to YouTube 2 years ago, or in 2021, and we have already eclipsed 2 million views thanks to you guys. And so thank you. And the radio show itself, sometime around October, we will be hitting our 1,500th episode. 1,500 episodes and 2 million YouTube views. We're pretty happy about that. But it doesn't happen without you all. So thank you so much. But we're going to be doing some celebrating. Right, John Boy?
Oh yeah, we always celebrate, even if there's not an occasion. That's what Indiana Sports Beat does. We just celebrate.
Yeah. Perfect, right on cue. That's like a script. That was like a written script, man. Tana said he'd love for the NCAA to accept part of that Michigan deal, reduce the suspension to 3 games, and let them rotate coaches, but make the games against Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State. Yeah, that would be that changes the whole game. That's my point. They're playing. This is a toy to them. This is like, okay, you can have it this time this week. No, now you can have it this week. No, now you guys got to share. It's like handing it out to kids. But oh well. I just find it funny. Jim Harbaugh says, I'm certain that all will be impressed with the 4 coaches' ability to direct and manage the game. That's from Jim Harbaugh. It's been well documented that we have a very talented coaching staff, and I believe that all 10 assistant coaches will be head coaches in the near future. They are all capable of leading a team at an elite level. I know that everyone will handle their responsibilities and help our players to be the best version of themselves on and off the field this fall and beyond. Harbaugh said recently he expected 5 members of his staff to get head coaching jobs in the near future. This is his way of backing it up by giving 4 coaches the chance to lead the team while he serves a school-imposed suspension. Yeah. We'll see. We shall see. Indiana basketball received an unofficial visit. There is in the process of possibly still receiving an unofficial visit from Jonathan Sanderson, a kid from the 2026 class. I mean, this is a ways out. But that makes him a sophomore now, I guess. But a point guard, 6'2" point guard from Michigan, Saline High School up in Michigan. Currently plays on the Midwest Basketball Club on the Adidas 3SSB circuit. And currently holds offers from Duquesne, Detroit, Eastern Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Marshall, Michigan, and Ohio. But also something else important. His father, John, is the current head strength and conditioning coach for Michigan basketball. So there's that. But he did or does play on the same AAU team program as Gabe Cupps, Indiana guard Gabe Cupps. But Travis Graff from Made Hoops first reported this. He's unranked by most recruiting services as of yet. Sanderson is one of the highest regarded young guards in his class, entering his sophomore year of high school right now. So that was probably through Gabe. I'm not sure why else you would have someone that young, that unheralded visit. So there you go, keeping you in the know. That went on yesterday. That did happen. Just kidding. What are your plans for the weekend? I know you got golf going on. This is the last weekend. Well, actually, this is week 0, isn't it, John?
Yeah, so this is technically the first official week for college football, even though it's labeled as week 0.
So there are 7, I think it was 7, the number of football games that are on, only 2 that
feature top 25 teams.
Yeah, Notre Dame is taking on Navy? The Navy, that's right, the Navy.
That's right. The midshipmen.
Over in Ireland, over in are they playing in Dublin, are they?
They are playing in Dublin.
That's
probably a pretty terrible accent. But then the other ranked opponent, USC, number 6 USC, taking
former Big Ten member, USC Trojans, baby.
The soon-to-be Big Ten member, not former Big Ten member, but they'll be taking on San Jose.
Soon to be.
Correct.
Yep.
So those are, I guess, the big names on the docket this Saturday.
Caleb asked about thoughts on Anthony Richardson last night. We'll take a break. We'll talk about that with Bob Kravitz as he'll join us here next on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Wild Food Group and the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale down in Bedford. Make sure you stop by and visit. Enjoy the Cajun cuisine. It is to die for. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, the musings of an old sports writer. That's what I should have said. I'll say it when we come back, though.
That's right. Great name still.
You just love it.
Mm-hmm. And there it is. The sports writer himself and his musings.
My musings and my bad looking beard, which I really need to shave.
Does that make you my muse?
Yes, I am your muse.
Oh, I like that. I might have to use that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I need to cut this down. So I'm a hairy muse.
How was Anthony Richardson?
He looked good last night. I know his stats suck, but that's because none of his receivers can catch his fastball.
That's funny when when you put it, I type in musings of an old sports writer in the search bar. What comes up is an ode to sports writing. Those great photos, like I talked about with the fedora, the guys and the typewriter. That's the first three things.
I'm reaching out to somebody today, a graphic artist, about maybe doing some new artwork. I think that would be perfect.
Oh, absolutely. And you could just put it underneath of the title, probably.
Yeah. So.
All right, here we go, guys.
Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hobbs' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Appreciate you being with us. Brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant at the corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Welcome aboard, Bob Kravitz, the man behind Musings of an Old Sports Writer. So that makes him my muse.
I'm your muse. Whatever I can do to inspire you, Jim.
I'm uninspirable. Welcome aboard. How's your week been, man?
Good, man. Really good. Cut down on the golf this week because I played golf like 4 days in a row, and I'm an old man and my back is killing me. So
it's lucky you were not been out there much in the last couple of days. It's horrible.
It's just brutal. Yeah. So no, everything's good. Watched the Colts last night. They looked their backups looked pretty good, but they're playing against ninth stringers for the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles they didn't just play their twos. I mean, they played their nines.
Went through it all.
They did. I mean, they played guys who have no chance to make this roster. So there's not much you can take away from it. But I was impressed again with Anthony Richardson. And, believe me, if he's bad, I'm going to tell you he's bad. But, he was 6 for 17, which sounds really awful. But he had at least 3 drops. He had a couple of plays called back because of penalties. I thought that he showed great poise in the pocket, a real sense of when to run and when to pass, when to stay in there against the rush. I'll tell you what, they gave up 60 sacks last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the 35 range this year because that kid he's not a statue, obviously. He's statuesque, but he's not a statue. And he's going to run out of a lot of trouble.
Well, that makes a huge difference. That's 30-something plays that you get to continue running your offense.
Right. Exactly.
And that changes everything.
Absolutely. No, he has, as inexperienced as he is, Jim, one of the things they liked about him is he has that instinct in the pocket. He has that poise, that sense of time and space, and that's something that's very hard to teach, and he has it coming into the league. So, it's going to be ugly at times, but clearly neither team game plan for this. It was very vanilla on both sides of the ball. We're going to see a lot more RPOs and played runs or called runs for Anthony. We didn't see any of that. We didn't see very much from Philadelphia either. So, typical preseason game. Regular season, the Eagles kick the Colts behind. But this is a good test for Anthony, and I thought he passed it with flying colors.
Well, that's got to be good news to Colts fans, and then you have the Jonathan Taylor situation, which has the Colts have given him permission to seek a trade, which I'm sure there are a lot of teams that would love to have him, but I don't know how many are out there that would love to have him at the price that he's demanding.
Well, that's the problem. That's why I have a feeling that come Tuesday, nothing's going to happen. Tuesday is the deadline for making a trade, and it's a two-pronged situation. They have to pay him. They, meaning the new team, has to come to an agreement on a deal, and the Colts have to be comfortable with what teams are offering in a trade. So it's a two-pronged situation, and I just have this weird feeling that we're going to get to Tuesday and nothing's going to happen, and then things are going to get really, really weird.
Yeah, and because if you don't find a team, then what are you going to do? You're just going to hold out, not get paid, sit out the season, or you go back to a team that you've crapped on. Do you go back and try to play with them?
Well, a lot like Chris Jones, who's the defensive end for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's saying that he's holding out and he's getting fined. He's been fined well over $1 million so far with Kansas City. He says he'll come back the 8th game of the season. And I could see Jonathan doing something similar. If he's not off the PUP list by Tuesday, he has to miss the first 4 games. So I have a feeling that he's going to be cleared, and then things are going to get really squirrely around here, because then he'll start getting fined if he doesn't play. So, honestly, if you ask me how this thing's going to play out, I think that Jonathan Taylor, if he plays for anybody this year, it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts.
That sounds right to me. The Indiana's football team they have a quarterback.
Apparently. We just don't know who the hell he is. Who do you think?
Nope. It's just a guess. But I'm going to stick with Brendan Sorsby.
Sorsby, yeah.
Just from things that conversations I've been able to have with a couple of people at least. But that doesn't mean anything. It's not those conversations did not say he's the guy. I'll tell you that right now. So don't get excited, people. And it will probably end up being Jackson regardless, maybe, because a lot of times in Indiana, it seems like they do the things that they feel like they're supposed to do, not what is needed to be done.
Okay.
And
you bring in a guy from offense they want to run. If they want to run a running offense, then you go with Trace's little brother.
Well, I heard that Sorsby is a pretty damn good runner.
Is he? Okay. Well, you know better than I do. So I have not been down to Bloomington to watch any of their practices. I don't even know if their practices are open to the media. So I don't know the answer to that. I know it's not going to make a difference against Ohio State, but if you're gonna play Ohio State, don't you want to play in the first game?
You got to.
Because weird things happen in the first game, especially on special teams. Maybe they can steal a couple of points here and there on special teams if they're sharp.
Well, you've got an All-American at return,
right, Jalen? So maybe something weird will happen. But I have a feeling it'll be a typical IU Ohio State where they keep it reasonable for a half, and then the depth starts to become an issue and their physicality, and they take over in the second half. I think that'll be a, kind of a typical IU Ohio State 38-14 type of deal.
It's almost impossible for it not to be, and I know fans don't want to hear that, but when you're running in three deep at a position, that means these guys are fresh.
Oh,
they're going against guys that are not fresh, that don't have the rest, that are working harder, and it's just and they're probably going against guys that are bigger and stronger.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
other
and
than
better.
That, no problem.
Yeah, and better. So other than that, it's great. But that's why
I'm covering the game next Saturday, and I'll be really interested. It's a 3:30 start, correct? Am I correct?
Sir.
Yeah.
First CBS football in Big Ten football game.
Yeah, they after watching IU, they may give back the contract. I'm sorry. It's going to be one of those years, unless Tom can pull a rabbit out of the hat. It's going to be a tough season for them. I saw a bunch of predictions, and everybody's got them winning one or two Big Ten games, and that sounds about right to me. But I'd love to be wrong. I mean, I'm a grad. I'm not. It's not like I love Indiana and hate Purdue or anything. I'm cool with both. But gosh, I think this is going to be a challenging year for local college football. I don't know how good Purdue is going to be, but they got a first-year head coach, a brand new quarterback in Hudson Card, and we'll find out what they're all about here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a great point that you brought up. Purdue also has a new coach, so I don't expect a lot from them because they lost a lot. They lost a good quarterback. They've lost a ton of their offense. Mm-hmm. Of course, Jeff Brom was not only that, but his staff that he had. He had his brother on staff, who's a former NFL quarterback. But they do have Graham Harrell at OC there, who was a Mike Leach. What's the student?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's a good one, student. Yes.
And so it's going to be, because I was talking about that. It's going to be interesting. You've got Graham Harrell and I can't think of his name, but the OC at Wisconsin also on that Mike Leach tree. Can you imagine seeing them throwing the ball in Wisconsin?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you think of the quarterbacks there: Scott Tolzien, Jim Sorgi, guys like
Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty, yeah. So I think it's going to be a lean year, unfortunately, but we'll see where it goes. The question really heading into the season is, if Tom Allen doesn't get it done, with the buyout diminishing, if I'm not mistaken, do they pull the plug at the end of the season? And so I don't know the answer to that. I really need to see them play this year.
Yeah, the question for me is, how pressured does Indiana feel to make the quote unquote commitment to football that they just simply haven't made? And they're trying to do that, but they're so far behind. They're so many years behind. They just sent out a survey to ticket holders and whatnot on renovations to Memorial Stadium and their suggestions, whether it be bigger, more concession stands, bigger, nicer restrooms. I say they need a new press box with suites in it, like every other stadium in the Big Ten has, minus Rutgers and Northwestern.
I'd be in favor of a press box that's about 300 feet
closer to the ground.
Closer to the ground. I mean, I've only once in my life have I ever been in a higher press box, and that was at Air Force.
Lucas Oil Stadium.
Lucas Oil Stadium is high, You should go to Air Force in Colorado Springs. My God.
What do they have you in a plane?
No, but we used to go on the roof, which is right there. We used to go on the roof to watch the flyovers because they're, it's Air Force. They're pretty intense, pretty strong, and
They're probably pretty good at that.
It felt like they were going to fall on top of our heads, the plane. So, yeah, I know what they need to do with that stadium. I know what they need to do. They need to win football games. They need to win football games. That's the bottom line. It doesn't matter what kind of stadium you have. If you're going 3-9 every single damn season, ain't nobody going to show up. I don't care if you have gold-plated toilets in there. It doesn't matter.
Point taken. And even there, if the season, what has to happen, do you think, this year for them not to make a change?
They got to win 5-6 games. They got to be in a position to challenge for a bowl. That's how I look at it. I mean, they're non-conference is what it is. They're going to have a hard time winning 5 games. I got a feeling, but maybe they'll surprise us. They surprise us like crazy. The pandemic year, which is kind of a weird, anomalous sort of year. Everybody else was down, and I think COVID threw everything into into confusion. But I'd say they need to be competing for a bowl berth. I think that would help Tom Allen's cause a lot. I'm not somebody who thinks that IU should change coaches every 10 minutes. I think that's been a problem for the program for many years. I think there are deeper systemic problems with that program that you've talked about. But if Tom can't get it done, then I think they got to think long and hard about making a change, because it's been this would be what, 3 straight horrible years.
Yep. But not only that, they would really have to, if they were to make a change, and I'm not suggesting that either, but we're just talking about possibilities because we need something to talk about. Sure. But they have to really, that's where they have to make the commitment, in my mind. They have to get someone that is outside of what they've done before. But then again, who wants that job? This is a tough task to take on.
IU is a graveyard for college football coaches.
But they're getting out of the Big Ten East. And that's going to help a lot.
That will help for sure. That'll help for sure. It won't have to face the Titans of the Big Ten every single year, so that's nice. But gosh, I mean, they're still bottom tier. Will they be more competitive down the road? Yeah, you would think so, certainly.
What are you doing next?
Well, really, the Jonathan Taylor situation is first and foremost on everybody's minds. So I'm going to monitor that and write about that sometime early next week. Tuesday is the deadline for getting a trade done. Chris Ballard is speaking with the media on Wednesday, so I'll have a piece Wednesday night as well. So, a lot going on, mostly Colts related. And then, of course, I got the IU game on Saturday, so I'll be covering that.
Looking forward to seeing you. Make sure you are following Bob at his new home.
Yes, which is BobKravitz.substack.com. And Substack is the way you would think you would spell Substack.
Sub and stack. It's very easy.
Even you can do it.
Bob, I appreciate you, brother. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right, buddy. You too. Take care of yourself. Hit them straight.
Thank you, Bob Kravitz from the Musings of an Old Sports Writer. Go to bobkravitz.substack.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's at our...
Oh, boy, you got to change that.
What is it?
That out...
Oh, trust me, I know. I've got to change all of it. I know.
I just noticed
the intro
that
liner. Got to change the. We'll be right back. All that crap's got to get changed this weekend. I'm aware.
Did you get the one? Did I send you?
You sent me some stuff. Yes.
Oh, thank God. Oh yeah, there's 4 in there.
Perfect.
But they're not all one takes.
Well, that's fine. I'll be able to sort through it.
But it's not bad. Yes, they have, Fred, and they love their football. And that's an 80,000 seat stadium, too. Hello, Bob. How are things down in Georgetown? Hello, Kay. How are you doing? Thank you, Kay. Appreciate you. Appreciate you for following. Royville Ballers. I'm out of coffee. There was someone else I wanted to say hello to.
20 seconds.
Step once a week. That's right. It's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday. It's August 25th, week 0 in the college football world. Couple of games, 7 games for you. It's like a little appetizer. It's like appetizer Saturday, John. This is appetizer weekend. And then the entrees are coming next week as week 1.
Hey, I'm a big fan of appetizers, so I'm not against that.
But speaking of which, pull up the Pick'em, college Pick'em, Indiana Sports Beat. We've got a college Pick'em for you. We're going to do this each week. Have weekly winners and a season winner. And like I said, we are in the process of getting some merchandise together. We owe one already right now for the NCAA tournament winner. But we're we're going to be doing a lot of giveaways in October, as I said, as Indiana Sports Beat is proudly will be reaching its 1,500th episode. Can you imagine they've left us on the air for that long? They've left me on the air that long?
Well, see, thankfully.
Don't tell anybody.
Oh, yeah, it's a secret.
Don't wake them up. I think they're sleeping, and they just don't realize that we're still on. 2 million views on YouTube. Man, that blows my mind.
So here you go with the college pick-em, man. Apologies ahead of time. I'm still fighting my voice issues from earlier in the week. But first thing you want to do, go to ESPN and set up a fantasy account if you don't already have one. Excuse me. Click on the fantasy tab, then click on college pick'em, search for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and then you're going to want to join the group with the password B-Town 2023. That's a capital B for B-Town. The rest is lowercase, and then 2023.
We'll get that up on a link as well. But just if you're listening on radio, we'll give it to you again to Monday. But otherwise, you can go back and listen to it. But yeah, jump on there. Let's see who I love picking college football games. It's just fun. Talking about the stadium improvements for Indiana, Mike says Indiana football struggles to draw people to games. They should focus the stadium on comfort over size, make it more usable for other events. Other events is something I brought up. I've wondered why do they not do other events in this stadium? I mean, I know that you're not going to draw concerts away from Indianapolis, but I'm pretty positive other schools have concerts. Now, maybe it's because they're not getting those kinds of draws away from Indianapolis that they don't need to use the football stadium for that you can have them in the auditorium because it's such a large venue, open venue, then your sound might not sound as good. I'm sure there are various reasons why, but I just mentioned why not have concerts after, not every game maybe, but certain games. Too late now this year, I think, but and it would be hard to police that, I guess, ticket wise, but you just do it anyway. It's what most schools do. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of different ways for Indiana but Bob said it best. You shouldn't have to be thinking of ways to do all this. Winning. That's one thing I always say. Winning cures everything. Winning cures all. Being competitive would cure a lot. And that's, to me, the focus that has to be made at Indiana. From the football team out. From the football team out to the practice facilities, out to the stadium, out to any and all other things. And I think it's come to a point now where they don't have a choice. They absolutely do not have a choice in this day and age. You cannot sit on your hands anymore. Indiana has sat on its hands basically in football since the early 70s. And I'm going to give you my opinion again on what happened in Indiana football. In the late 60s, there was a protest by the African-American players who were not being treated equally. And that boycott hurt Indiana for a few years in the late 60s, right up to the early 70s. Guess what happened in the early 70s at Indiana? Bob Knight arrived. By 1973, Indiana was in a Final Four playing UCLA. By 1975, they were on the verge of an undefeated national championship, which they tragically wouldn't get. But in 76, they would. Do you think people cared about IU football at that point? Hell no. They're winning national championships in basketball, baby. They are the toast of the town. The basketball mecca of Indiana, the state, had the basketball mecca at IU. They had the greatest young coach in the game. Football, schmutball. Let Michigan be football or whatever. Well, that was a bad mistake because Indiana was competitive in the Big Ten up until that point. And they could have stayed competitive had they handled the situation differently. And that's the whole, none of the people are here now, obviously. It happened such a long time ago. But that's what happened to Indiana football, period. Anybody else can give you all the stories they want. That is what happened. And it didn't have to, but it did. And the more success the basketball program had and the less success the football program had, well, it's like kids. If there's a kid who's excelling at something, he's going to continue to be pushed and given more opportunities to see how far he can go. If there's one that's not, here's a balloon. Play with this. That's kind of what IU did to the football program. Hey, here's a balloon. Play with this. That's just my take. And again, none of the people that are here now, this was a long time ago. So this is a systemic problem in Indiana. Other schools never did that. Purdue didn't do that. They've always tried to balance. They've kept the importance of football up there. They're obviously they have a damn good basketball program, but they didn't forget about football. You couldn't. You can't. I don't know how you could ever do that from an athletic department standpoint. But that happened a long time ago at Indiana. And they paid for it for years and years and years. It didn't take long because this, like I said, that happened in the late 60s, in the early 70s is when it actually happened. So throughout the 70s, the 80s, they were not good. Bill Mallory had a decent run, and that was in an era where you could still. Ohio State and Michigan were not what they are today, and Bill Mallory showed that he could compete with them, beat both of those programs, and then things started changing in a different direction. And then that was it. So we'll see. You never know what these changes can do. Maybe Indiana will make a new commitment. And with getting out of the Big Ten East, with getting other teams in, maybe this will be a positive change. I don't know. I hope that it is. It's always a lot more fun to cover a winner. And as Bob said, I'm a grad. I'd rather see him win, but I can't cheer for him. But it's a lot more fun to cover a winner, I can promise you. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate you. Taterology says one of IU's biggest issues is that most of the northern half of the state's IU basketball fans are Notre Dame fans for football. They lose a ton of non-alumni support that they get for basketball. It's not that it's because Notre Dame football is successful. If IU football was successful, that would not be the case. Yeah. Like, who was it that pointed out about Nebraska, which anyway, I can't find it right now, but he said that, Nebraska, and I think it was Fred, but had sold out their stadium every year since like 1962, and that's an 80,000 seat stadium. Of course, it wasn't back then, but it is now, and they're still doing it. They did it through some lean years, man, through the Scott Frost years. It's kind of like IU basketball, though. And even when IU basketball is down, that stadium, that arena, Assembly Hall is going to have a box full of people in it. But it's time. The money will force that to happen, I think. And I wonder, I think people would be happy, but we'll see. And all of this is conjecture for the future. How they do it, I'm not sure. Gary McDaniel was the March Madness winner. I got the note right here. Tana said it's sad that IU focused on basketball rather than address the race issues they had, and it cost them overall in the financial. Oh, hell yeah, it cost them overall. It cost them more than just financial. It cost them in a lot of things. But yeah. Yes, it is. Very sad. Nebraska. Rudy says Nebraska football is the biggest thing in Nebraska. Hell, it's the only thing in Nebraska. You kidding me? I'm kidding. Yes. Well, it's not a story, just a story. It's just, these are just some facts, Tanis, in regards to IU football. But yeah, that happened. I mean, that happened in this time with the boycott happened in the late 60s, which led right into the early 70s. And then it's like, well, what happened in 1971? Bob Knight came to town. Success followed. Boom. It's easy. He says that IU could have hired Urban Meyer, but hired Gennaro instead. Well, shocker that they didn't make the right call there. Tana said, say when you could still run a clean program. Yeah. There you go. What a great point from Dwayne. Notre Dame doesn't need major upgrades to their stadium. They did upgrade their stadium a few years ago, but it was not because they just wanted more seats. Let me tell you, Notre Dame Stadium is a piece of crap as a fan to sit in. Just to sit. You know what you're sitting on? And I'm not joking. You're sitting on 2x6 boards. 2 inches thick, 6 inches wide, all the way around. You're sitting on 2x6 boards at Notre Dame. They ain't there for the seats, people. They're there for the football. Bam. Perfect point, Dwayne. Thank you. We've got to take a break. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us in the next hour. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the punishment sitting your ass on those seats. Let me tell you, I've done it. And I have never sat in the seats because I'd always been in the press box. And I went with my daughter to a game. This has been several years ago now. It was when Louisville upset them up there. How long ago has that been, John? 2014, probably.
Yeah, that sounds about right, timeline wise.
And so she was probably about that. So anyway, I remember I'm like, are you crapping me? They were freaking 2x6 boards, and you have to turn in the corner, so they just angle them. You ever been to a football game, people? How many people have asses like this? That's another thing. The seats were marked about this wide. Yeah, it's like getting on a Spirit airplane in the back. But they love it. What is the number one stadium? Oh, that's a great thing to talk about. We will. Seated stadium. Yeah, boards. I was shocked. Boards. Wooden boards, not even the new fake stuff, but real wooden warped boards. That's another thing. What does wood do out in the weather? I don't care if it's pre-treated or not. What it's eventually going to do? It's going to freaking warp. Guess what? Similar, and probably the most famous football stadium in America. One of, if not the. I thought you kicked that cocaine habit, man.
I know, it sounds like I'm doing lines, doesn't it? Excuse me. All right, let Zach know you're ready for him in case he lost track of time. Here we go.
Provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. It's Friday. That means your weekend has arrived. And guess what? Your wait for college football is over. Week 0 is here. That means there are no calories for college football this week. It's a calorie-free weekend at week 0 because there are only 7 games, so you can't overeat. Boy, what a segue that was. Zach Osterman from the Indy Stars joining us now. Zach, proudly, is that your Braves jersey? What you got? Or is that the old school jersey?
This is the Homestead.
That's the
Homestead Grays, the Negro League team.
Yeah, that's very, very, very cool. Man, the Braves, they are white hot. They are the best team in baseball, and I don't even care if it's by record or not. They've been the most consistent all year. And as a Braves fan, I'd be a little scared because every time they look that good is when something seems to go awry. But they are kicking butt.
Yeah, I mean, I think a long time ago, I think I became circumspect enough about sports to just try and enjoy what's in front of you. Not worry too much about, what might happen next. I think if you got a good baseball team, that means a fun summer, and anything that happens after that, you just kind of take it on the chin. Obviously, I think it probably for a lot of Braves fans, probably helps that this group's won a World Series, so you don't feel that sense of sort of, I don't know, wasted opportunity or whatever. But they're having a real good season. I mean, one of the best. This genuinely might be the best Braves team I've ever seen. We'll kind of see how the season wraps up, but I think that's a definite possibility.
It's definitely looking that way. So we'll continue to watch them. Indiana football has decided on a starting quarterback. We do not know who that is. Everybody keeps asking me, what do I think? Give me a quarter. And that's basically what it is. I'll flip it and I'll tell you. If it's heads, I think it's him. If it's tails, I think it's him. To be honest with you, if Ohio State knew today who it was, I don't think it really makes any difference. I really don't know what they're gaining this late date of not just announcing who it is, but I get the gamesmanship that goes along with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're gaining. I also really don't know what you're losing. I've had fans who said to me that, Indiana should be trying to drum up interest and hype and all that. I'm not really into that stuff. I mean, first of all, I'm not trying to pick on either of them, but if either of these quarterbacks was going to come with real hype, then there wouldn't be a competition, Second of all, I just don't think, naming your starting quarterback is somehow going to put 10,000 more rowdy fans in the stands. Like, I think you just, however you want to do it, just, I guess my attitude is probably just however you want to do it, just stick to that. Don't walk it back. Don't decide, don't get cold feet at the last minute. Just stick to what you want to do, what you think is the right thing to do. The other thing I'll say too, and I wrote this in my newsletter this week, history tells us both these guys are going to play this year, and you don't want guys to get hurt. You can't assume guys will get hurt, but Indiana, since in the last 13 seasons, Indiana's only made it through the season 3 times with the same guy starting every game. Ben Chappell started 12 games in 2010. Richard Lego did all 13 in 2016. Peyton Ramsey did all 12 in 2018. There have been a handful of changes at quarterback mid-season for performance reasons, or maybe more a little bit like for stylistic reasons, thinking about changing from Richard Lego to Peyton Ramsey in 2017. I don't know that was necessarily Richard Lego was a bad quarterback. It was just kind of a different offense, and Indiana wanted to try something different. But a lot more of the changes, including going back to Richard Lego and Peyton Ramsey got hurt in 2017, were forced by injury. And so history tells us Indiana is going to need multiple quarterbacks, may even need 3, may even need Dexter Williams at some point. We'll just have to
not only need Dexter Williams, but he brings a very different element than the other two do. I know that they both can run, but his running is just quite different. What he was able to do when he got the opportunity was obviously a huge improvement for the Hoosiers, but he brings a different element. And that's going to bring into the question of a not a dual quarterback system per se, but using a second quarterback in that manner.
Possibly. I mean, I think that's certainly possible. The one thing I will say, especially because it does feel like the quarterback run element is going to be a bigger deal for Indiana this year, is that I think I would withhold judgment on the QB run stuff until we see whoever the starter is going live, because it's one thing to do it in practice. It's another thing to do it in games. In practice, you might stick your nose in somewhere you don't normally because you're not going to get hit. But on the other hand, in practice, there have been some times, even in just what we've been able to watch through preseason camp, where like Taven Jackson, for example, has kind of gotten outside the tackle box and turned upfield, and they've blown the play dead. And just watching it with my eyes, I've thought, I think I don't know that you could assume he was going to get tackled there, and maybe there's more yardage. And so until we see these guys kind of as runners, I'll withhold judgment on the idea that Dexter Williams is better or worse than them in the open field. But he has proven, and of course, this is also provided he's healthy. He has proven he's got that element to his game in the way that neither of them have, and so that that gets to it too. And then you've got, I mean, even if push came to absolute shove, you've got Brock Lowry, who is very much, I think, by his reputation from a high school quarterback in Ohio, is very much a guy that is capable of being that dual threat and of getting out in the open field and running the football. So we'll see. I mean, it's one of the many fascinating layers.
Absolutely. And with Ohio State coming in, Indiana, we're going to get a very, very quick look at what the offensive line can do, because obviously everything starts and stops with the line, the improvement that has been made, because Indiana does have a good running backs room. And it's going to be interesting to see what they can do for guys like Jalen Lucas or Josh Henderson, these guys, and if Indiana can get some breathing room to be able to throw the ball, which they basically have not been able to do for the last couple of years.
And again, I kind of go back to the questions I have just about the option and about is that something that is really going to be a staple of what Indiana tries to do running the football? Because on the one hand, that puts more on a quarterback. I mean, that's more decisions a quarterback's got to make. That's more reads he's got to make. That's more, frankly, bravery he's got to show at times. When you're going to come around that edge, if you see the end or the backer coming down on you, you've got to hold on to that football for a long time to make them commit to you. And that may mean taking some hits, right as you pitch the ball. On the other hand, a really good east-west ground game, especially one that's got an option element to it, can make life a lot easier on an offensive line, and can let an offensive line maybe attack downhill a little bit more, maybe pull and trap a little bit more, get out into space, release off of bigger linemen and go block smaller players, linebackers, safeties, etc. So, I mean, as with anything in football, like all this stuff is, fairly codependent, or fairly sort of symbiotic. Each hand kind of feeds the other. If you can be good at it, then we're going to find out if Indiana can be.
Opening up against such a staggering opponent, one of the top 5 teams in the country, a potential favorite to win a national championship, is not what you want to do. But Indiana doesn't have a choice. It is what it is. What can the fans gain from this game? What is the expectations? Obviously, Indiana would like to win the game. From a betting standpoint, if you look at the line, obviously that's not something that people are expecting, being a 28-point underdog. What is the best thing for Indiana other than winning to do coming out of this game?
I think obviously, I mean, and this is true of any game, but I feel like people always think it's more true when you play like an Ohio State, fair or not. You want to stay healthy. That's part of it. I think something else that always kind of, I guess, comes to mind for me, or I'm not sure what the word jumps off the page. I'm not sure what the word would be. If you're Indiana and you can kind of, find anything that you can kind of consistently execute in this game, like there's a real extent to which, like, I know nobody likes to talk about moral victories, but you only have to play Ohio State once. And if you open with them, that means you won't play them again. That means the most difficult road game of your season, or home game of your season, is over when the final whistle sounds at 7:30 on Saturday night. And if you can have a game maybe not dissimilar to what Minnesota did a couple years ago, they opened on a Friday. Ohio State had a new quarterback, a slightly younger guy behind center, and some things were clearly kind of, there were some hiccups, and eventually Ohio State just scored a bunch of points and pulled away and won. But Minnesota kind of got to come out of that game. I think Muhammad Ibrahim got hurt, and so that kind of overrode it. But there were some other areas where Minnesota, I think, got to come out of that game feeling like, okay, we still proved a little something here. There was still some real tangible good here. If you're Indiana, there's you can set yourself up in a way where there's really nothing but positive out of the weekend, for lack of a better term. And I think it's going to be interesting to see just kind of if Indiana can maybe get itself to a place where, I don't know, it almost feels like it is. It almost feels like there's, like I said, just nothing but positives to take from this weekend.
Absolutely. And Jalen Lucas, he's going to be a marked man. Indiana's All-American coming back. They're trying to get the ball in his hands as much as possible, whether it's in the return game or in the offensive backfield. Josh Henderson. Indiana does have a good core of running backs, and they've added some to that. So although we don't know as much as I'd like to know about the team going into the season, it seems like they have better pieces than they had last year.
I think that's possible. In fact, I would say I agree with that. I mean, what I can't get away from is, I think Indiana is discernibly better on both lines of scrimmage. And there is, other than I guess possibly quarterback play, but really, you still need a good line to have good quarterback play nearly all the time. There's really no better way to improve in football than to just get better at the line of scrimmage in both directions. And on the offensive line, it's because of, I think, maybe a coaching change. I think I've mentioned this before, but I find it fascinating that Bob Bostad was the offensive line coach at Wisconsin and had a lot of success. And then he went to inside linebackers coach, which is obviously a completely different part of football, and still coached a bunch of really good players. That sort of suggests that, like, you can talk about the tactical elements and the X's and O's, that he's just a coach who can connect with players and get them to play with confidence and get them to play with, an edge and all that stuff that coaches like to, all those cliches coaches like to spit out. On defense, it's very much more like kind of remaking a position through the portal. If you look at the last 18 months, if you stack up if you project a 2 deep along that defensive line, it's going to be dominated by transfers, and the holes that are filled maybe not by transfers are going to be by guys, I suspect, like Nick James, who's a redshirt freshman, played a little bit last year. Staff really likes him, kind of held him back last season, wanted to develop him a little bit more, but we might see more of him this year. My point here is, I think it's kind of 2 different paths up the mountain in getting those position groups better, but I do think both are tangibly better, and there really isn't a more surefire way to get yourself to improve yourself as a team than by getting better on both lines of scrimmage. And if that stuff holds true, not just for Ohio State, but just in general, and Indiana can stay healthy in those areas, I think they've got a chance to raise their ceiling.
Absolutely. And actually, for me, I've said this many times to different people, but the Louisville game is the linchpin game to me. They have to win that game, so they don't have to win 4 Big Ten games, but that's down the road now. What's up next for you, Zach?
I guess one last weekend of I'll watch some football this weekend, certainly, but one last weekend without football on the schedule, without seeing all your beautiful faces in the press box at Memorial Stadium again. Just trying to beat the heat, though I think it's supposed to ease off after today a little bit, and trying to just enjoy a little bit more free time. I think this is one of the rare weekends, as Jim, when you have kids, your weekends in the summer just fill up with activities and vacations and got to do this and got to fit that. And I think this is going to be the rare weekend where there's actually not a ton on the schedule at the moment. And so maybe just try to relax a little bit, enjoy it. And, one last recharge before the madness descends.
Head down to Meadowworks Brewing Company. That'd be a great.
Now we're
Perfect.
talking.
John's got it up in the corner. That's perfect. Zach, I appreciate you very much, brother. I hope you have a great, relaxing weekend.
Thanks, Jim. Good talking to you as always.
You as well. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow. We've got more coming up with Jeffrey the Greek. Makes his return right after this on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Weather.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing?
We're doing well. You sound a little choppy for a second. Try to say something else.
Yeah, God, I felt like my internet was a little weird this morning.
Oh, let me try something on my end. Now say something.
Hello, John. How are we doing?
No, nothing there. How about this?
You sound fine to me. That might not sound good to you.
Yeah, yours is coming through real crackly. I'm not sure why.
I think it's my internet. I don't know what the heck just happened. I literally just had issues getting online. Let me try to reboot real quick. I'm sorry.
Okay, you're fine, man.
Have him check all of his connections. It sounded like that could have been a connection issue.
Yeah, that's what he was thinking. He said he went to reboot everything. All right, we got about 20 seconds.
Roots and limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Friday, August 25, the last weekend. I guess it's not really without football. K-Bro jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. You got to send K-Bro the link, John Boy. Talk to him about upcoming football weekend. He's down there covering the Gators. I haven't seen that documentary, The Swamp Things. Welcome back, Jeffrey the Greek. How are you, sir?
I am great. How are you guys? Can you hear me?
You sound like $1 million.
Wow. Okay. It actually worked.
Yeah. I wish, Roy. K-Bro jumping on, talking about Notre Dame Navy. Yeah, I guess that's the highlight of the weekend, if you want to call it a highlight. I think that if you're going to go to Ireland, that that Ireland should get to put together a football team and you have to play them of their rugby players.
That would be
kind of like an MMA thing. It'd be kind of like an MMA thing.
I'm not sure what my take is on that. It would be a spectacle. I'll say that.
You didn't expect it. You didn't expect to come back and then within the first few moments be talking about playing against a bunch of Irish hooligans. Oh, that's what you do.
No,
you don't get the hooligans.
I did not think my first question back would be a situation that puts Notre Dame versus a rugby classic all-star team. No, how are we doing, Jim?
It's doing great, buddy. How have you been?
Here. Not good. I mean, I haven't had college football, but we get to rectify that this weekend, so pretty excited about that.
Look at Jason. He's wanting a good parlay already for the weekend. There's only 7 teams. It's hard to miss. Well, I guess not really.
Yeah.
The way my bets went last year, it killed me. But only 7 games on the docket. And 2 teams that definitely worth watching, Notre Dame and USC, of course. This Kevin and he pulls this dumb Irish joke. Why is Ireland the fastest growing country in the world? Because the capital is always Dublin.
That's a good one. That's a classic.
Oh boy, he's been carrying that one in his pocket for a couple years. Okay, bro. But football is back in a way.
Yes,
I guess kinda. It's like I told John a minute ago. This is the appetizer weekend. You got some appetizers. Just a couple of appetizers.
I actually love it. The only thing I would change is last year, one of the week 0 games was Northwestern, Nebraska. So you had not only a Power 5 versus Power 5, but in conference, and it wound up being a great game, which wound up being 2 not so good teams, obviously. That's the one thing I would choose. I wish there was one Power 5 versus Power 5 matchup for the weekend. If that was the case,
that meant something.
Yeah. I mean, even if it didn't mean a whole bunch, if it was like 2, team, like a team in the ACC, team in the Big Ten, or something like that, that was like bowl level teams, like 6 and 6, 7 and 5 teams. That to me would be enough to warrant what I'm asking for here. But in the end, let's be real here. College football starts at my time, 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. There are lines available to look at, over-unders all day long into the evening. That's all I need, okay? I'm a simple man. Give me my basement, my nice, cool basement, I'd like to point out. Give me some college football, and we got good things happening tomorrow.
Well, we know you're John, if we could play it, we know his walk-up song, Simple Man.
That's right.
Simple
That's
Man.
Right.
We're not getting a copyright strike today, but
I know.
We appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, Navy, I can sing it.
Navy at Notre Dame. Navy is apparently going to start trying to throw the ball a little bit this year, so that'll be exciting to see.
Who is it?
And then
what's
that?
Wisconsin's going. Who is it? Wisconsin might be throwing the ball this year.
That's a good point.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And then, a little bit of stuff in the afternoon, maybe Ohio, San Diego State, Hawaii, Vanderbilt. That's fun. That's get to see an SEC team. And to me, San Jose State, USC in the evening. I mean, this is what I keep picturing for that game. All it takes is USC to turn the ball over early in the game, or San Jose State to pop a big one. Now suddenly everybody in the country is dialing into that game to see, if USC can respond and if we get a big upset week 0. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's all it takes with college football. And the next thing you know, you got a great game that everybody's talking about.
But can we even watch San Jose State and USC?
Pac-12 network. Got to have the Pac-12 network.
What the hell is the Pac-12 network?
Well, pretty soon it ain't going to be anything, but you can still get it for now.
I think it's pictures that are then put up on Twitter.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good setup. That's for sure. Yeah,
I'm serious. I don't know that we can watch it. I mean, who has Pac-12 network back here?
I know I've watched games on the Pac-12 network before, but I'll be honest with you, you got me checking. I'll probably go check my cable provider over the weekend or early next week.
I'm
to make
not
sure
sure that
it.
I do. I don't recall seeing Pac-12 network on my lineup. And
it depends on.
Suck. That's that's the game you want to watch.
Yeah, that would be the game you'd want to watch. We also got FIU, La Tech. We got Hawaii Vanderbilt starts. I mean, that's the SEC network. I know I got that.
And now that game last year was intriguing because we always talk about jet lag and all this stuff to travel. Vanderbilt traveled all the way to Hawaii last year. Vanderbilt, who was not a good team, and kicked the ever-loving crap out of Hawaii after flying 8 hours. So I'm like, I kind of don't really want to hear that stuff anymore, because if you could fly 8 hours and then play a football game for 3.5 hours or 4 in the Hawaiian sun in full uniform, basketball can do it too. So that was that kind of put that to bed for me, that game last year.
Yeah, and I think actually Vanderbilt got off to if I can remember, they got off to a slow start in that game and then just absolutely poured it on after that. It'll be interesting this year. I mean, I think Clark Lee, that's the head coach at Vanderbilt. I think he's a pretty good coach. I think he's got Vanderbilt much improved. So I expect them to win the game pretty handily. But, on the other side of it, heavy hearts in Hawaii, maybe that, is an emotional situation for the game. Definitely an interesting game to check out. And again, we can make any one of these games a little bit more interesting if you put some work into it.
Well, plus if there are anybody that happens to be listening that is going to be down in that area or going there, if you're in the Nashville area and you can go buy a ticket to go to the game, the Commodores athletic department promises to donate a portion of ticket revenue to the Hawaii Community Foundation's Maui Strong Fund to support the victims of the Maui wildfire. So there's a great tie-in there.
That's awesome. Great move by Vanderbilt.
So do you have your parlay picked? Or do you have multiple picked?
For this weekend, I've got 2 or 3 that I'm looking at. I've been busy with my life and job and personal life this week, so I got to put some time.
We don't care about your job. We don't care about your job and personal life. We got important stuff to talk about, man.
I know. I don't know if I'll go that direction this weekend. It'll probably be just a couple standalone situations to keep me, preoccupied for the afternoon and evening. But now next week, when we get into week 1 and we're in the full tilt of Big Ten football, then it might be a little bit different story.
What is the, I don't even know what's the spread for Notre Dame game?
I think it's right around 20. I could be wrong.
See, but Navy's no longer running the. All right, here's another big change.
20 and a half, yeah.
20 and a half. Isn't Navy? They've ran the triple option for 1,000 years, and now they've scrapped that. It's new coach, different offense.
I wouldn't say a total scrap, but a semi scrap, if that's a way to explain it. They're throwing the ball more. So I think it's going to be essentially an RPO offense with a lean towards, a little bit more of a lean towards the rushing attack. I mean, Navy maybe threw it 4 or 5 times a game. You might see a shocking, 16 or 17 passes a game type of deal, where, like I said, it's a little bit more RPO. That's me kind of reading through and just listening to other podcasts. I am by no means a Navy expert, but there you go. That's a reason right there, along with it being against Notre Dame, a ranked team. You tune in, you check it out. Notre Dame doesn't have a lot in the way of film on what they're going to run here. Maybe Navy hits a pass early in the game.
I like Navy in this game because it's a first game. Because of what you're saying, they don't have the film. They're
doing something different, and they don't know exactly how it's going to be. And I wish it was 21 or 21 and a half that we were getting, but I'm still hoping for maybe a 17-point game at max. I don't know how strong Notre Dame really is. I think they always get a lot of hype, too much hype, because it's Notre Dame. So until I see it, I wouldn't mind taking Navy in that one.
No, that's one I'm definitely
and the
looking
points
at. And the points, yeah. And then the other thing is both teams are going overseas. I don't know. It always seems like it's a slogging field, whenever they play over there. It wasn't last year with Nebraska, Northwestern. And there was actually a lot of points in that game versus Nebraska and Northwestern. Point being, I'm trying to make, I think, is that it feels like a game that would stay under. I think Notre Dame does have a good defense. I have more questions with their offense, which obviously could definitely play into Navy cover in the 21 points, because they're going to have to score, quite a few, you would think, to cover that, if Navy can just get at least 10, 13 points on the board. So I guess we're kind of looking at the same thing. Vegas always knows, but that's one definitely to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the other big game that we were talking about, San Jose State versus USC. What's the spread on that, baby?
You got me. I got the Big Ten lines more memorized. You're catching me off guard with these.
There are no Big Ten lines.
We could talk week one, but yeah, I would guess that's around. You're gonna have to.
That's all right. I'll look forward to that. I will. I'm definitely taking. I'll probably take Vanderbilt.
Although USC is a 30.5 point favorite. Wow, 66 total points. Ooh, that's a big one right there. With USC, I think it's more with that game. It's the Caleb Williams Heisman, part 2 campaign, future Big Ten program here. With Notre Dame, Ohio State fans want to tune into that. They're going to be playing Notre Dame in week 3. And with USC, it'll be interesting. I wonder I think USC has always drawn in a lot of eyeballs because they're USC. I wonder if they get a little bit more eyeballs this year from Big Ten fans. You know what I mean? Because now Big Ten fans, let's see. Not that we haven't watched USC before, but a little bit more this year. Just to tune in. I'll be looking at the lines. USC's defense has been awful. They've got a lot of JUCOs in. They say the defensive line, the offensive line has improved a lot. That's some of the stuff I'll be watching in that game.
Absolutely. Do you have Andrew wants to know, he wants you to give him a lead pipe cinch, baby.
For week 0?
For week 0.
For week 0.
See, week 0 is calorie free. It's calorie free betting.
It is calorie free. I would go ahead and lay the points with Vanderbilt. That would be, I think Clark Lee has got them playing a lot better. It's just something that doesn't get talked about that much because it's Vanderbilt, and I understand that. I think it's going to be a tough trip for Hawaii. Maybe they stay close for a little bit, but I think Vanderbilt will just kind of pull away. I mean, Vanderbilt is trying to get to a bowl. That's their number one goal. They obviously have to win this game in order to get there. So I think they pound them pretty hard and get their season off to a good start.
All right, brother. Next week, we get into the steak and potatoes.
Yes.
Of college football. Make sure you give Jeffrey the Greek a follow Eyes on Big podcast with his cohort Big Kurt. Right?
Yep. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Eyes on Big podcast, B1G. Big Kurt's still part of the podcast. Check out our predictions podcast that we just released. We predicted all the Big Ten standings, Big Ten, East and West, and Big Ten champion. So that's always a popular podcast for people to download. Check that out. And then shout out to my guy Jordan. He will be my podcast partner for the 2023 season. Kurt's got some things going on, but it'll still be the same format. It'll be great. So always welcome more listeners.
Appreciate you, brother. Look forward to it, man. It's here.
All right. Excited.
Have a great week, Jeffrey.
All right. You too.
We've got more Indiana Sports Beat going on. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us when we come back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
I'm such a one-trick pony, man. I could talk Big Ten till the days dies, but I have had no time to look at week 0 other than a couple lines. So sorry,
I got you. No, I'm sorry I did that.
All good. I figured we would just dig into
those all laid
Big Ten
out.
predictions or something like that. But
I
am excited. I am
Jeffrey.
What's that?
I saw you posting on one of Martha's tweets that Indiana's going to cover that 28.5, because that's where I'm sitting.
I feel that
right now.
I feel that too. That wasn't just me. Courting to Martha the Mop Lady. I honestly think Indiana's defense is going to be a little bit better than people think.
I think they're going to be better on both sides.
I agree.
But
I agree.
But it's hard to be worse.
Yeah, I mean, they were close last year. They fought the whole way through. I got Indiana at 5-7, but man, I had a lot of iterations where they were 6-6 and getting to a bowl. I think I like Indiana more. Huge.
Louisville.
Louisville. Yeah, it's.
I tell you what, a lot of Louisville fans, they have some very big heads right now. Louisville fans,
they do.
Very big heads.
They've already won championships in their head. Brom's a good coach. Don't get me wrong, but I will be cheering very hard for the Hoosiers in that game. I can guarantee you.
Jeffrey,
it's crazy.
Meet Travis Miller. He's from Boiler Upload, the rival site for Purdue.
Oh, nice, man. How you doing?
Good. Louisville is the only college football stadium I've almost gotten arrested in.
And it was definitely the stadium's fault, right?
Well, my wife is a University of Miami alum, and we went down there to see them play the U. And you talk about having big heads. They were winning the game late, and they were really talking it up. And so as we're leaving, I just give a big, 5 national championships to your 0, because I went full fan, full Thug U, and had some people get in my face about it, and I'm just smiling, waiting. They're wanting me to throw something. I'm not throwing anything, and the next thing I know, this cop arm bars me and escorts me out of the section. My wife turns around and sees me being escorted out. She's like, "Oh God, now what?" And I know this cop.
Was it an escort for your protection type of deal?
No, he was definitely trying to get me on something, and I'm just like, "Look, you told me to leave. I'm leaving." He's like, "Why are you trying to walk away from me?" "I'm leaving. You told me to leave." Some beverages might have been involved in with that. So
have a good
10
weekend,
seconds, guys. Thanks, Jeffrey.
In all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hobbs' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. It's August 25th. Time for the weekend, baby. It is here. And also here with me, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. See what's happening up the road in West Lafayette as week 0's here. Purdue does not play this week. Indiana does not play this week as we're head closer and closer to the season. But what's happening up in West Lafayette, Travis?
Just a lot of practice, getting ready for the season, seeing who's going to come out. And again, I think this is a team that has a lot of mystery as to who's really going to be some of the major contributors. We know Hudson Card is going to be the starting quarterback. He was named a captain yesterday. His top returning receiver is TJ Sheffield, who had a little over 400 yards receiving last season, 4 touchdowns. And he was also named a team captain, but aside from him and running back Devin Mockabee, there's a lot of question as to who the top receivers are going to be and who will be the leading in production with this offense, honestly.
Yeah, similar to a few other teams, Purdue going through a coaching change in the Big Ten West. Was it 4 or 5?
Minnesota, or not Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, Wisconsin. Yeah, 4.
And then you add Brett Bielema from last year. So you've got 5 brand new faces in there, Coach. So the Big Ten West, although this is the last iteration of the Big Ten West, has seen an impetus of new coaching. So you're going to see a new offense. I think I talked about this earlier in the week. The offensive coordinator is Graham Harrell. Is he at Purdue?
Yes, he is at Purdue, and he is very excited to have Hudson Card on board. Apparently, Card's been working really well with him, and everything that we have heard is that they are just clicking really, really well together. But we about 8 days from kickoff, and it'll be interesting to see what results we have, because everything else that we've just heard is, great practice, lots of positive things. It'd be nice to see it translate to the field in a week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Purdue can do. And we were just talking in the break about Jeff Brom down in Louisville. Louisville is such a linchpin game for Indiana, but a completely different offense, although it may not be all that different from what Purdue fans have been seeing.
Right, and that's what I'm looking forward to. He wants to run more of an air raid type. He's a Mike Leach disciple, but it's going to be a little bit more mixed up. You've got to mix it up when you've got Devin Mockabee back there, a kid that ran for nearly 1,000 yards last season. Hudson Card himself is a much more mobile quarterback than Aiden O'Connell was. So I think you're going to see some modified RPOs. They're going to spread the field out, and they're going to move the ball. It's just a question of who is going to be moving the ball aside from Mockabee and Card.
And then, of course, defensively, what do they have back on defense? How are they looking on that side?
That is really where he's plugging in a lot of different transfers and everything. One player that is very, very intriguing is Jeffrey Mba. He is a transfer from Auburn, and a year or two ago, he was the #1 junior college transfer recruit in the country. So it didn't really work out at Auburn. He didn't play a whole ton, but he is a physical specimen. He's about 6'6", 320 as a defensive lineman. And he's one of those guys that has not played a lot of football. I believe he is originally from Gabon in Africa. So, kid that's still very raw, being worked with and whatnot. But we've heard some really good things about him. And if you're looking for kind of a guy that might be a diamond in the rough that nobody's really heard of yet, he is one that, he might really burst onto the scene. And then you have Nick Scorton, who had a pretty solid season last year as a true freshman. You might know him as Nick Carraway. He adopted a new last name this year. And he is also expected to be pretty solid on the defensive end and be able to get to the quarterback. And then the secondary is almost entirely new, honestly. You've got Cam Allen with 10 career interceptions, did come back for his senior season at safety. But the cornerbacks are all new as transfers. They actually lost a transfer this past week with Jamari Brown leaving the program. And I think that says something for the transfers that came in, where you have a guy that was a starter for much of last season just decided to enter the transfer portal this past week and ended up at Mississippi State all of a sudden.
Yeah, that a little bit late, and I'm sure that plays havoc with teams. There should be, and I'm surprised that there's not a line that's a little more closer to the start of things for those guys to be able to do that, I believe. But oh well. Purdue opening up with an opponent that not exactly easy, and we'll talk about this again more next week. But Fresno State formerly coached by Kalen DeBoer. He was an offensive coordinator there. He came to Indiana, then he was the head coach there. Now he's the head coach at Washington. But they had success under him. I'm not sure what they're like right now, but I can't imagine they've fallen off that much that fast.
They won 10 games a year ago. They won their conference. They do lose their quarterback, their running back, and their top receiver. So they're having to replace a lot of offensive production. But as you said, they are always a tough team. Even before Kalen DeBoer got there and before Jeff Tedford got there, they've always just had that attitude. I know they've gotten famous for, we will play anybody anywhere when we can. I have memories of them given USC all they could handle in the Coliseum when USC had Reggie Bush and Lindale White and all of them. So I'm not expecting an easy game. This is going to be a challenging one for Purdue, but I think it's one that, depending on how Purdue responds, it will give you a much better idea of how the first year is going to go, just because it's not your typical FCS, you're going to win by 6 touchdowns game for the new coach. No, this is one that right off the bat, Purdue will be challenged.
And I don't know what my schedule is not showing it, but I'm missing one of the non-con games. They play Syracuse 2 weeks after Fresno. Is there a bye in between, or is that the game I'm missing?
They are at Virginia Tech. It's the back end of a home and home. Virginia Tech came to Purdue in 2015. So a lot of people forget that game because that was year 3 of the Hazel era, and everybody wants to forget the Hazel era. But yeah, he is. That is the back end of a home and home, and that's going to be an interesting one too, just because Virginia Tech is coming off one of their worst seasons in quite a while, and I know there is not a ton of excitement for this year from what I have seen. But it is still a road game at a Power 5 opponent. And Virginia Tech is known to have a pretty solid home field advantage. So that in and of itself will be a test.
And I'm looking, I talk about Indiana has to reduce the load on their non-con schedule, mainly by not scheduling teams like Louisville and Cincinnati. But I look at Purdue, man, that is not an easy non-con schedule. You got Fresno State, Syracuse, and in between, although we just mentioned Virginia Tech is down, it's a Power 5 road game, and it's a program that has had success. So whenever this game was scheduled, they probably were successful. That's a wicked non-conference schedule for a team like Purdue that's not in that upper echelon with the Ohio States and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, in the next few years, it's not going to get any easier. Next year, Purdue's supposed to go out to Oregon State, and Oregon State looks really, really good right now. We beat them to start the 2021 season when they came to West Lafayette. Purdue won that by 9, but it was a game until late. I think Purdue got a touchdown with about a minute left to give them some breathing room. And then Notre Dame comes back on the schedule for the next 5 seasons after this year. I believe we've got 2 or 3 games left with Indiana State in alternating years. We've got one with Ball State coming up. But there are home and homes with Wake Forest, with North Carolina, with Ole Miss coming up, and the back end of home and homes with Vanderbilt and TCU, where Purdue has to go there to each of them in consecutive seasons. Now, that's like 2029, 2030. They may be in the Big Ten by then. Who knows? But
that's so it's a 5-year home and home with Purdue?
Well, TCU and Vanderbilt both came to Purdue in 2019, so the back end is not going to be for both of them. It's not till 2029 with Vanderbilt and 2030 with TCU. But I remember my first game as a student was against Rice in 1998, and they didn't give them the back end of the home and home until 2011. So you know how these non-conference schedules works. And like I said, they could all be in the Big Ten by 2029. I don't know. Who knows?
Let's see. Where did it go? Fred pointing out that Purdue basketball sold out their 9,000 season ticket allotment for their 3rd year in a row. Does that include their students?
I don't believe so, but the students get like 1,500 seats, I think, and those will sell out as well easily. I think Purdue's on something like a 48-50 game home sellout streak, and that shows no sign of ending anytime soon. I mean, when you're going to enter the season in the top 5, I'm not surprised at all.
I'm surprised they don't get a lot more student tickets. Only 1,500. Indiana has 7,000 student tickets. That seems like a really small number. I know it holds around 14,000. And that place, I can't imagine how loud it would be if they had more students in that damn thing.
I mean, I'm not sure what the exact number is, but I know they sell every single student ticket that they can sell. And
I'm sure.
They even get it for the Christmas break games. They kind of set some of them aside for the students that are like, okay, we're coming back to campus early, or especially if it is, a Big Ten game or something, which is kind of a point of contention because Purdue, for whatever reason, has really struggled in that home Big Ten game, like January 2nd, January 3rd, when the students aren't there. I know that's when they lost to Rutgers last year. 2 years ago, they lost to Wisconsin. And it's one of those games we look at that and like, okay, who is Purdue going to be playing in that one? Because they seem to almost always just not quite have it when they don't have the students there.
Well, it's hard to come back after eating all that ham and turkey, man. I feel them. Zach Edey, the big man, the Big Easy, makes not Team Canada yet, but he makes the final. He did make the final 12 for Canada's FIBA World Cup prime. So he'll be playing some more international ball.
Yeah, he's looking good over there. They seem very, very solid and very happy with him. I mean, he's going to be playing against NBA caliber players over there. I believe it's in Jakarta in Indonesia. So it'll be a good experience for him. I'm not sure who they've drawn in group play. Haven't looked into that as much yet.
France.
Yeah, you're going to have him go against Rudy Gobert. I mean, you talk about stepping up in competition and want to see how he's going to perform. That's right there. Even if he only comes off the bench for 5-10 minutes a game, that's valuable experience, not just for Purdue this coming season, but to see how he stacks up for his eventual professional career.
Yeah, Lugan Dortz, RJ Barrett, Kelly Olynyk, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on his team. He has talent around him, but he, like you said, he will be going up against a ton of talent, which that has to prepare him better for this upcoming basketball season than anything he could possibly do. I mean, this is like going to camp, big man camp.
And I think, honestly, one of the things that'll stand out, I think Purdue will be better if he doesn't have to do as much. I mean, yeah, he's still going to be an offensive force at the basket. He's still going to be one of the best rebounders in college basketball, but I'm willing to sacrifice 3-4 points a game and a couple rebounds a game if it means that Fletcher Lawyer's hitting another three, if it means that Braden Smith is getting 3 more assists, if it means Mason Gillis is hitting threes, or Brian Waddell or Camden Heidi is not locking down that 3 spot. And that is going to be the key for Purdue is how much is the rest of the team going to be able to pick up for him to where he doesn't have to do as much, but he's still there under all right, we need a basket right now. Let's give it to the really tall guy near the basket.
Yeah. For Purdue to win on the national stage, it has to be that way. That's what killed them last year. I mean, they got swept by Indiana because they were able to do what you could do to Purdue at the time. And because it was the Big Zach or pretty much nothing if you were able to defend them. Well, obviously you've got guys. I've heard that Trey Kaufman-Renn has made an enormous jump in his game with his shooting. The guards are obviously a year older, wiser, which is just going to make them better. You still have Mason Gillis. You still have Caleb First. So much that is coming back. There's no way that they're not going to be better in and of themselves. But this right here that we were just talking about with Zach Edey, that could be the biggest thing of all. Even though you are right, and like I said, they only win on the national stage with him doing less. This could make him just be completely dominant when he is doing what he is doing, and he was already pretty dominant.
I think one of the blessings that Purdue will get out of this is not only Edey getting that experience with Team Canada, but when they went on their European trip about a week or two ago, they played without him. And so we got to see how this team was going to function without him in the middle. That gave Trey Kaufman-Renn more minutes. That gave Caleb First some more minutes in the middle. They got to see a guy he's probably not going to contribute too much this year, but he's kind of the guy in waiting, the next 7-footer, Will Berg. 7'2" guy from Sweden that can step out. He's a little bit more of a shooter and can play a little bit more in the perimeter, kind of like Matt Harms. That's who he reminds me of. And, I think that element is key, is being able to play without him. Because, yeah, Edey was playing 31, 32 minutes a game. That's still 8 minutes that you have to find a way to produce on offense without him on the floor. If Purdue can consistently keep that offense without him on the floor, or even stretch it to 12 minutes where they can still score, still function offensively, that's what's going to really make them better, is being able to play without him.
Absolutely. Travis, I appreciate you. Make sure you go to Boiler Upload for all your Purdue content that you're looking for, or to keep up with what's going on with the Boilermakers. Appreciate you a ton, man. That's going to wrap it up for us here today, this week at Indiana Sports Beat. Great list today. Big thanks to Bob Kravitz, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, and of course, Jeffrey the Greek, who made his return as college football comes back. We're in week 0, but don't forget, it's a calorie-free weekend. Real stuff starts next week. Travis Miller for Boiler Upload, for John the producer. Cannot thank you guys enough. Without you, we have no reason to be here, and we're grateful that you give us that. Until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.